Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest BookTrib live chat, a Merrill Moss Media production. Today we are talking to our very special guest, the queen of the summer novel, Elin Hilderbrand. Thank you so much for joining us, Ellen.
Thank you for having me.
And we first spoke with you back when your book Silver Girl was out. And a little known fact is that you were one of our first live chats, so it's very special that you're back here today. We're very excited to talk with you. And Ellen will be discussing her new novel, The Rumor, and this page turner tells the story of best friends Madeline and Grace, two Nantucket locals who are thrown into a whirlwind of rumors that are about to come to an explosive head. So if you want to find out what happens, we're giving away a copy on BookTrib.com of the book, so please stop by after the chat and enter to win. So Ellen, before we begin our questions and answers, can you tell us a little bit more about The Rumor?
So I wanted to write a novel about gossip. This island is 4 miles wide and 13 miles long, and there's a fair amount of rumors and gossip and people talking about each other.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to write a novel where this was sort of the subject, and so I decided for the first time ever to make my protagonist a novelist. And she's stuck for a book idea. She spent her advance. She's really in quite dire straits. And at the same time that she's trying to come up with an idea for her book, her best friend in the world, starts having a very heated love affair with her gardener. And the only person that she's telling about it is her best friend, the novelist. So the novelist is getting this very juicy story coming to her. And so she succumbs to temptation and basically starts writing a novel about her best friend's affair as it's happening. Shares some pages with her publisher, and her publisher's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the next big thing. We're going to make you a superstar. It's going straight to #1, and then Madeline finds herself in a conundrum. Simultaneously, there are a bunch of other things going on, and people are talking about Madeline, and Madeline sort of becomes the subject of a rumor, and then her best friend Grace's husband is also in sort of a financial pickle, and he starts up an enterprise that is very scandalous. And so everyone is sort of behaving badly, and people are being talked about, but not always truthfully or correctly. So it ends up being quite a mess.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. I want to read it now. So we know that your books take place on Nantucket. So what is the background with your beloved Nantucket? Did you grow up there? Is this where you spent your summers? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I spent my summers growing up in Brewster on Cape Cod, and then in college I went to the Vineyard. So when I was quote unquote an adult, when I was 23 years old, I was teaching English in the New York City public schools, and I had a summer off, and I decided I wanted to go away, and so I ended up coming, because I'd done the Cape and I'd done the Vineyard, I ended up coming to Nantucket. I rented a room in a house, and the second the ferry pulled into the harbor, I thought to myself, I am never leaving. I mean, I was just fell madly in love with the place, and I did go back to New York and teach that year, and then after that year, I moved permanently to the island. That was in '94, but I've been here 22 years.
Oh, wow.
So really, and had my children here, and they go to public school, and I've lived here year-round since 98, and I really love it.
What's it like living there in the wintertime? Because I know a lot of people that live on Block Island, and it gets very remote. I'm sure the rumors are rampant.
Yeah,
in the winter,
that's when everything
better to do.
The rumors all start. It's quiet. It's really two completely different places. In the winter, you really only see the people who live here, and those are the Nantucketers. And I have 3 kids, one in the high school, one in the middle school, one in the elementary school. So I'm in all 3 schools with kids, and their sports and their activities. So you live that kind of life. We go to the grocery store, we Netflix, we do that. It's quiet. I love it, I love it in the winter. And then it's almost sort of this time of year, a feeling of having to give it up or give it away, because all of a sudden all these people are here, and you're like, who are these people in my grocery store? It's nice also to have an influx of energy and more things open and things are going on, and so I definitely enjoy both aspects.
Absolutely. And now, we have a couple questions just about your writing process. So Alex wants to know, where does all your writing take place? Is it in a room, your office? Do you go outside? Is it by the water?
I write everything longhand. In fact,
Wow.
I wish I had a notebook handy. I don't. They're in the living room. Which means, like yesterday, for example, I wrote on the beach because it was a beautiful day, and I went to the beach and wrote. I belong to a pool club up the street. I do a fair amount of writing there, sort of weekday. The kids, I have kids, they have a nanny who takes them to the beach. I will sometimes join them, and I will do my writing there. And then I write at home in the winter in my house, up when they go to school. I take two extended trips. One is to Boston in the fall when I'm doing my revisions. That's very difficult work, and I have to do it quietly without the children, so I rent a place in Boston for 8 weeks, and then I go to St. John for 6 weeks in the spring, and I do my ton. I have been writing 2 books a year, so it's very, very difficult to meet those deadlines without taking extended periods of time sort of to myself.
Now, why St. John? Is there a specific retreat that you go to, or you just really like
I love it there. I call it Nantucket South. St. John is similar to Nantucket in so many ways. Nantucket is 70% conservation land, which means it will never be built upon. And St. John is 70% national park, which means it will never be built upon. Wow. So there's a large part of the island that is wild. So I love that about it. St. John, like no street lights. Again, Nantucket, no street lights. Very few chain stores. It's very independently owned, original. There's very few developed beaches on either island. In Nantucket, there's town, and then there's Sconset out in the east, and in St. John, there's Cruz Bay, and then there's Coral Bay out in the east, and so many similarities between the two places. Of course, St. John is tropical and absolutely gorgeous. Pretty much year-round, but I like to go there in March and April.
That's amazing. Oh, nice. Perfect. And now Becca has another question. She says, what was it like writing from the perspective of a writer? Have you ever had a character that was a writer before?
I have not, and I enjoyed it. It sort of allowed me to explore my own pathologies. Like writer's block, and what does that feel like? And there's a scene at the beginning, and I wouldn't be giving too much away, where Madeline is trying to write her novel, and instead she opens her junk drawer, and she's like, oh, look at all this stuff. I need to put this up, and I need to go online and order drawer organizers, and then, she finds her day is wasted, and so there are lots of things that can distract us. I found it pretty easy to write the scenes where she's trying to write, and anything and everything is getting in her way, and I think working mothers have that problem anyway of balancing work and home, but it's definitely hard when you're working at home and you have kids coming in and out, and you've got dishes to do, and the mailman comes, and it's just too distracting. So it was very fun to be able to describe that in the work.
Yeah, and now she has writer's block, and a lot of writers say they don't believe in it. Do you believe in writer's block?
Oh yeah, I mean it's I think it comes in a lot of different forms. It's very, very difficult. The hardest thing about writing is to write the next scene, and make sure it flows. But I write 2 books a year, so I don't really have the luxury of writer's block. I certainly wouldn't put something down for several days because I didn't know what was coming next. You just basically have to power through. In Madeline's case, like if you didn't have an idea for an entire novel, that would never happen to me because I always have my ideas when I sign contracts. But if you were Madeline and you didn't have an idea, you would be in some pretty hot water.
Exactly. Now, do you know anyone who's ever written anything based off of something so juicy, or have you ever thought about it?
I don't think I understand the question.
Like, did you ever hear of any rumors that you wanted to write about, but you had to stop yourself?
Some of the rumors that I wrote, some of the rumors that are in the book, and I don't want to give too much away, are rumors that I actually heard. Grace's husband is involved in this, and you know what it is because you read it, is involved in this scandalous money-making scheme. And years ago, somewhere, I heard that this was happening on Nantucket, and I did a book group on Saturday. I said, did anybody else hear that rumor? And people had. And never heard that if it was substantiated or not, but it was enough for me to sort of be like, okay, what if that did happen? And now I am the novelist, and I have to flesh it out and make it seem realistic, which I feel like I did, yeah.
And then off you go with it. Perfect. Now, Kate has a great question. She says, what has been the best feedback or criticism that you've gotten from a reader or a colleague even?
Well, the only person who really influences my work is my editor. So in general, I accept, when people come through the line and have their book signed, they're always like, oh, I loved it. And every once in a while, they will have responded to like something specific about it.
Yeah.
Via a character's name, or I said something in their hometown, or they really loved the part where, something that they associated with was involved. But as far as influencing my work, the only person that makes comments that I actually listen to is my editor, Reagan Arthur. Mm-hmm. She reads everything. She writes me a letter. She's always right. This is I think it's the 10th book I've done with her, and she's always right. So I don't need to listen to anybody else. Or that is how I have found it. Yeah, just her.
Like, she's perfect. Now, Jenny has a great question. I love this one, actually. She says, what are 3 things you can always find in your purse?
Well, definitely chopstick. I mean, that is 4th. I actually always have it on.
Yes, essential.
Pen. I'm a novelist. And money. I love cash. So those are 3 things you can always find in my purse. Chapstick, a pen,
amazing. Nice. Now, Amy says, what's the perfect cocktail to enjoy with this book on the beach?
I like to drink champagne in the summer. I like to drink champagne year-round. But I like to drink champagne. I drink with Clicquot. It's expensive, I know. I'm looking for like a less expensive bottle of champagne. I like, there's a sparkling wine called Gruet. It's Gruet. It's made in New Mexico. It's delicious. Like $13 a bottle. That's a winner. Chandon, regular Chandon, fantastic.
Right.
I think champagne with my books.
Some nice bubbly champagne. Perfect. Yes, exactly. Allie wants to know, who's your favorite author to read, or authors?
My favorite author to read, I love Anna Quinlan. Mm-hmm. She's wonderful. She's a real. She writes about difficult topics, but almost always in a domestic setting, so they feel familiar. I love her writing. There's a Western Australian writer that no one's ever heard of named Tim Winton. He is one of my very, 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 very favorite writers. He's an absolute genius. So write his name down. He wrote Dirt Music. He wrote The Riders. Fantastic books. I love Richard Russo. And Jane Smiley.
Excellent. Now, Amy wants to know, what do you think is the key to successful writing in particular?
Well, I think discipline is the really the only thing. You don't even need any talent. Honestly, you have discipline and
just sit in your seat and do it.
Yeah, I mean, something that a lot of my readers do or do not know is I run every day. I run about 8 miles a day. I do it every single day. I rarely take a day off. I do not like taking a day off. If I'm very sick, I will take a day off, or if it's pouring, blizzarding.
Yeah.
Heat, most times I go to the gym and use the treadmill. But the reason for that is that it's a discipline. The running is a discipline. And I do it first thing in the morning, and it's the first thing I do, and then that's done, and that sets me up to do other difficult things like sit down and make myself right. But it is the discipline of starting at the beginning, moving to the end, finishing, revising, turning it in, making your deadline. You have to be disciplined.
Yes. Now, Marley wants to know, can you tell us why the beach is such a big part of you? What is it about the beach and the water?
Beach and the water. Yeah, I grew up summers on the Cape, and we lived in a cottage on a sandy lane that led to the beach. And it was my father and my stepmother, and then my 2 brothers and my stepbrother and my stepsisters. There were 5 kids, 2 girls, 3 boys. My parents. We had all these rules. Like, we had an outdoor shower, so we were not allowed to shower inside. So for 7 years, we did not shower inside in the summer. We ate on the screened-in porch. We had to go to the beach all day, every day. And we were sunburned. We were all burned to a crisp, and it didn't matter. We were all out there. And weren't allowed to we packed lunch. We ate down there at the beach if it was beautiful. And then on rainy days, we were allowed to stay home and play board games. And at night, we had what I now would consider forced family fun, but it was like we went and played miniature golf, we went out for ice cream, we just did
Exactly.
fun summertime stuff. And so that was very, very important to my upbringing. And then my father died in a plane crash when I was 16, and those summers came to an end. And then after that, my summer was I had to get a job, and I worked in a Halloween costume factory. And as I'm like doing the piecework at the factory, I'm like, I'm gonna have a life where my summer is at the beach. Like, I'm getting that back. Somebody, like, I basically felt like I had been robbed of the greatest thing about my life, and I'm like, no matter what else I do, I'm gonna be at the beach.
Oh, that's amazing. Something to aspire to. I absolutely remember being on the Cape every summer, and everything that you did, I did as a kid. I loved it. Mini golf. Now, Kathy just popped in with a question. She says, "Hi, Ellen. I'm a huge fan of your writing. How do you come up with new ideas for each novel?"
Well, it's getting hard. I mean, I'm writing, so I've even written 16. I'm writing novel 17 right now. And you have different characters. Okay, so the book I'm writing now is about a TV chef who kills himself, and his 3 ex-wives come up to Nantucket to basically spread his ashes and say goodbye. So that I come up with the situations, and then I do the writing, but it's hard because Nantucket is small, so I had to pick a different part of the island now from my other books where this house is set, and these are people. This is one of those novels where people come from off island to be on Nantucket for a week. So it's one of those books as opposed to, like, let's say The Rumor, where they live on Nantucket.
Yeah.
Now, in The Matchmaker, I talked about Daffodil Weekend. And then in The Rumor, I talk about Fagawi Weekend. And so I'm trying to, like, hit all the major things that happen during the summer without repeating myself. So basically, I will run out of ideas, I think, at some point. But having new characters and new situations sort of lends itself to sort of exploring different parts of aspects of Nantucket.
Absolutely. Now, Chase wants to know what you have coming up in the near future. Do you do any, do you have any conferences coming up? Do you do any book tours, signing events?
I'm coming on, I'll be on the morning news on Wednesday, flying to New York tomorrow.
Awesome.
Wednesday morning, I'll be on CBS This Morning with Gail, Nora, and Charlie. And then I have events in Northern New Jersey, Mystic, Connecticut, and Madison, Connecticut this week. Nantucket Book Fest next weekend. And then the following week, I'm in Rhode Island. I'm in Rhinebeck, New York. I'm at Mohegan Sun. I'm in Chatham.
Wow.
I'm in Rehoboth and Bethany and Sykesville, Maryland. So I'm doing 16 events in the next 2 weeks.
Wow. All over the East Coast.
I look
busy.
well rested now. I look well rested now because I've been resting up.
That's amazing. Now, Susan wants to know, do you ever go to fans for inspiration on names or anything else? Have you ever kind of, had a dialogue with a fan about, what the name of the town should be or just anything like that?
Not really. When I do signings, if someone comes through the line and has a super original name or different name that I really love, I write it on a piece of paper. Or a lot of times they'll have the sticky notes. And so then a name that I think I might want to use, I'll like put it in a different pile, and then I take them home and I keep a list in my phone of first and last names that I want to use. It's hard because my books are really populated with a lot of people, and you have to be able to keep the characters. You want distinctive names, but ones that aren't like each other. Like I just said, I was writing this novel about a TV chef with 3 ex-wives. So the ex-wives have to have very distinct names. So it's Laurel, Linda, and Scarlett. But you need to, have 3 very distinct names that aren't like each other. So it's tough.
Yeah. Now, if The Rumor were to be made into a TV show, who would you see cast as the main characters? Do you have an image in your mind of who you would want to see play them?
I haven't really cast this one, but if I was going to cast it, so anybody that's going to play me, so I like Meg Ryan, she's blonde, so I would put Meg Ryan as the novelist, and then as the best friend, somebody like, see, I'm old, like I'm thinking like Andie MacDowell, Julia Louise Dreyfus would be great as Grace as the best friend. But I'll noodle on that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to do that because it's your own character. You don't know who it's going to be, exactly like. Now, Lexi says, we hear that you write all your novels longhand, and she says, what's that like? And you mentioned that earlier. That seems like quite a process.
Yeah, so I write them, I have it in the other room. I write them longhand, and then I type
Like a
them into the
scroll.
computer. Yes, like this.
Wow.
And then I type them into the computer, and that's really my first edit. So that's the first time that I'm reading it, looking at it.
Wow. How long does it take you to kind of do that, or have you not
It
calculated?
takes a year. It takes a year. I don't think it occurs to me. It does occur to me that it would be faster just to type it into the computer, but I'm not sure I would get it done. I like being outside.
Yeah, no, I understand that, yeah.
Traveling, airplanes, I'll pull it out. I'll work on it. Trains, buses, any travel is always good. I take car service now everywhere because I'm famous. So I can write in the car. Much easier to do it longhand. And then when I get home,
Exactly.
I sit down here. I'm at my desk and I type it all in.
Yeah. Now, Emily has an interesting question. She says, do people recognize you when you're out and about? Is there a place that you get more easily recognized?
I get recognized probably about once a week, regardless of where I am.
Yeah.
Here, all the time, but I mean, you have to just make a distinction of the fact that I know a lot of people here.
Everybody knows you, right?
Everybody knows me. So they're the people that I know, so we're not counting the people that I know. So people that I don't know will come up to me if I'm out to dinner, will come up to me if I'm at the grocery store. I have my picture. I probably have my picture taken once a week at the grocery store. And then at the airport, I get recognized a lot at the airport, getting off and on Cape Air flights. So yeah, it's not so bad. Megan Trainor was here for the weekend. She grew up here. And
cool.
mind you, this time last year nobody knew who Megan Trainor was, and now she's like the hottest thing since sliced bread. So she was here for the weekend, and she was just at the airport. I saw her, and you know, the poor girl can't get a break. It's like she's in heaven.
I know.
I'm not like that.
Crazy. Yeah, that would be insane. Now, we love the cover. It's just blue skies that go on, and the two girls gabbing with each other. Do you have any artistic influence on your cover designs? Do you have any input, or do you kind of just let them go with it?
I like it. That's all I can really do. I would say I like it, I don't like it. That particular cover, I looked at many months ago. Let's say back in October or so. And I said, oh, I like it. And then I was busy doing other things and did not revisit it really until the spring. And I looked at it and I thought, gosh, that is just gorgeous. And then when the actual book came, I'm like, it's my favorite cover of any of my covers. I think it's absolutely the most sumptuous. You can't tell. It's like this deep turquoise. It's just beautiful.
And it has the orange sandals, and then it offsets, you know, it's got the red sailboat. It's perfect. Now, something that I find interesting is covers in other countries, like the way that they market to their readers. So do you have any really wacky covers that didn't really fit?
I've sold in 17 languages, so I have all kinds of really weird, and it's just an artistic sort of an aesthetic sensibility of the country.
Exactly.
For whatever reason, and please don't hate me, the British, the covers are just horrible in general. Now we have a cover for Beautiful Day, actually, that they did for Beautiful Day was so beautiful, and then we borrowed it and used it every once in a while. But they do like really pastel-y, watercolor, like super schmaltzy. They love it, and that's just their thing. Whereas I think American covers are really tending more towards photographs and realism almost, and stark and striking, you know. But yeah, the covers, I've seen some doozies.
Now, Mackenzie has a little question. She says, we had mentioned Silver Girl before, so she says Bernie Madoff inspired that novel. Is that true? What's that about?
My novel, Silver Girl, was based on an article I read about Ruth Madoff in the New York Times. And the article basically said how she couldn't get her hair colored, she couldn't buy flowers, she couldn't go to the restaurants that she and Bernie had been going to for so many years, and how she was completely excluded from her life because her husband had made these, obviously, like, taken down the United States economy. And she was persona non grata. And that was not the interesting thing about the article. The interesting thing about the article was at the very end, it said that she had a friend from when she was 4 years old in preschool who was standing by her.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, and what's it like to be that woman? And so the novel really is about a woman who goes through what Romina went through and then reconnecting with her best friend from childhood who stands by her and sort of picks her up out of the hole.
That's awesome. That's a fantastic idea. Lexi has a question about author friends. Do you have any close friends who are also authors, and do you kind of ever collaborate with anyone or brainstorm?
No. I mean, I think, that's a couple questions. I do not brainstorm with anyone. I do not collaborate with anyone because I don't have time. I do have friends that are authors. I've done, I'm to the point now where I'm doing a lot of panels and events where there are other authors. So I'm friends with Jennifer Weiner, Jane Green. I went and had dinner with great, now I can't remember her name, down south. Mary Kay Andrews. So when I go to book festivals, and George Pelicanos, I don't know if you read mysteries, but George Pelicanos, he also wrote The Wire. He's a great friend of mine. I love him.
Yes.
So I do have, I consider every author I meet or do an event with to be a friend of mine because I have no professional jealousy, zero. And I love everybody exactly the same. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you read your reviews? It's a question from Alex. And how do you deal with a review that might not be too positive?
I really don't let myself I don't read a lot of reviews because I don't have time.
Yeah.
But when I do see one, somebody posted one on Twitter that was like really very lukewarm of the rumor, and I thought, why?
Right.
She just didn't like it. everybody else has really loved it. She didn't care for it too much, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. When I wrote The Blue Bistro in 2005, it got slammed by the Philadelphia Inquirer. I mean, it could not have been nastier. In the Philadelphia Inquirer, I grew up outside Philadelphia, so that was my hometown newspaper. And so everyone I ever knew saw this horrible review of The Blue Bistro. And I was devastated. And then I just said to myself, I am not going to let this happen again. And I'm not going to put stock in something and let somebody else take me down. So I really try not to read them. And then when I do read them, and it's bad, I just say, oh, well, people, the great thing is that unless it's People magazine, which that would be pretty devastating, but short of that, people just don't all read the same stuff. So one person reads a good review here, there. I mean, your information is coming from a bunch of different locations.
Yeah. Now back to the rumor. Can you tell us a little bit about your favorite scene without revealing too much?
Oh,
what
gosh.
What are your favorites, all right?
My favorite scene is about halfway through the book. I'll say it takes place at the dentist's office. And it says, worlds collide when so-and-so takes her children to the dentist. So you've got, like, the one big gossiper going into the dentist, and the dental hygienist is the other big gossiper. And then they get together, and they start talking about what they heard, what I heard, what you heard. And they really don't know what each other heard or whatever, if one of them has more information. But it's a, I think, classic scene of talking.
Yeah. All the gossip, the best gossips at the dentist. Marley wants to know, do you think you'll stick with your genre, forever, or do you think it's good to branch out and try something new?
Well, I'm going to stick with Nantucket. I'm going to stick with summer. I am going to try and write a book I'm going to try and write a murder sometime in the next 2 or 3 books.
Exciting.
I'm dying. It'll be a little bit darker. And then I've written the Christmas novels. So that's a little bit different.
Right. People love Christmas.
I'm going to stay on Nantucket for right now.
Yeah. No, we're happy that you're staying there. And you mentioned before what you're working on next, but can you dish a little bit more about that before we say goodbye?
I didn't hear that. What?
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're working on next?
Oh, I'm working on a novel for 2016 called Here's to Us. And it's about a famous TV chef who kills himself on page 1. And he has two ex-wives and an estranged wife. and a child by
Right.
each wife, and they all come to Nantucket with his agent, and his family spends a week there trying to figure out what happened, reflecting on his life, what he meant, and then spreading his ashes, and a lot of drama. And you can imagine having
Yeah.
3 ex-wives in the same house.
Exactly. I have one more question for you before we go. So I know when you have such a great location and it's so small, do you always start with new characters, new stories, or do you kind of have overlap where you have a character that you might know from a past book, or do you always start fresh?
Yeah, the only character that recurs really is the chief, the police chief.
Yeah.
He showed up in the Castaways, and then he showed up again in Silver Girl, and he showed up again in Summerland, and he showed up a little bit in The Matchmaker, and he has a pretty big part in The Rumor, so we will all get to see the chief again. Tomorrow,
Is he big?
go out and buy The Rumor.
Yay. Is he based on anybody that you know on
I know
Nantucket?
the police chief here, but he's sort of quasi the same, but you can't put a real person in fiction, so he's his own.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, and everyone, please enter to win a copy of The Rumor by Elin Hilderbrand. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Bye, Amanda.
Bye. Have a great one.